Hi, everybody. This is John Farian, and I am here with Emily and Juan, and this is the Professional Career Showcase. So, Emily, say hi to everybody quick.
Hey.
Juan, feel free to say hi quick. How are you doing?
Hi, everybody, and hello and hola for those of you that speak Spanish.
Awesome, awesome. So today's going to be a really important episode. We were introduced to, Juan through one of our previous guests, Scott Hewson, and Scott and Juan had worked together in the past and put Juan's story on the radar of myself and Emily. And so it's going to be a very intriguing and interesting story about how layoffs can impact international workers like Juan here, who was here on a work visa, right, in the United States, and the impacts that had happened. And so, Emily, you want to kind of remind everybody maybe what our mission statement is for this show, and then I'll follow up with the vision statement.
Yeah, happy to. So, our mission to empower and enlighten professionals across the globe by sharing our journey of career navigation, fostering growth, and embracing human centered authenticity. We commit to delivering insightful content that resonates with our core values of faith, family, and community.
Very good. And then we'll jump into our vision statement, and that is to be an authentic voice in the professional podcasting space, recognized for inspiring individuals to achieve personal and career growth while staying true to their values. We envision creating a vibrant community where listeners can find guidance, support, and a sense of belonging as they pursue their aspirations. So now that we got all the official stuff out of the way, Emily, I'm going to kick it back to you and let you get started with Juan.
Sounds good. All right, Juan, can you just walk us through just in more of an in-depth overview of your professional background and maybe share a little bit of insights into your family life during your time in the United States?
Sure. Thank you. I've been in learning and development for a little bit more than 20 years. That has been my main career. I'm a psychologist by trade, but I some point I jump into the learning process and I just stayed there. I loved it, and that was it. I was hooked on forever. Um, I've been doing that for a while. I At some point, I started doing it for bigger companies and bigger companies. There's a lot of big companies here in Costa Rica um, that have their operations in the U.S. and all around the world. So at some point, I jump on the wagon with all the big tech companies. And back in 2016, my employer at the time allowed me the opportunity to move into a program management role, and I moved to the Pacific Northwest. So I was there from 2016 to 2022. Yep. Um, Working for different companies. Back in 2021, I jumped ship and I moved to a tech company that you might be familiar with, that you both work at some point, in which I work with Scott. Scott was actually the one that hired me, so I'm very grateful for that. He gave me the opportunity to come and move to Microsoft and do some marketing learning. So that was really great opportunity. But then um, at the at the beginning of 2023, I was impacted by layoffs while I was working through my visa and waiting for some paperwork to be finished, and so my employment was interrupted, and all the processes related to that, of course, were interrupted as well.
Yeah.
At the time, fortunately, we were back in Costa Rica waiting for our visa process, because my visa expired a few months to a year before, so we actually had to leave a few months earlier, and we were here in Costa Rica waiting for that process to be finished
Yeah.
when we were impacted by this. So
Hey, Juan, before we get too far into the layoff part of the story, what I'd love to do is to help establish kind of what was your family and your family lifestyle like in the US, during this time. I mean, your children,
yep,
like my understanding from our conversation is your children were very young. It was a very
yep.
important developmental time of their life. And so talk about your family life while living here in the US, and what it meant to you to be living here in the US.
Yeah, so it was really, when we moved, my wife and I, we both have a couple of boys. At the time that we moved, my boys were 8 and 5. So my boys were just starting in the process of, like learning how to read properly, going through school and all that. And so when we moved into the Pacific Northwest, it was a great opportunity for my boys to learn English and to develop their skills. My wife also started attending community college so she could learn English as well, because I was the only one that could communicate properly. Um, and so it was a great journey for all of us to just come here and do, this cultural experience, go to to be in the Pacific Northwest, enjoy the nature that was very similar to where we were coming, but of course the weather is a little different. You might understand that, right? um, but we loved it. We came in, we connected with a great church. We got settled in the community. We started, like, just growing roots with different people. Unlike um, the usual story with maybe other immigrant groups or populations, we actually decided that we wanted to get immersed in the full, not um, Hispanic cultural experience. So we purposely moved into an area where we were more international. We had neighbors and friends from different nationalities, and so it was really a great experience for us, for my kids to be able to really learn at school just by being there, from kids from different families, from different places all over the world, and be exposed to music, food, languages, all these different things. And so um, their their minds were opened to this great experience. Our church that we used to go to, there were like 22 different nationalities at church. So that
That's
was
amazing.
even, a
Wow.
great experience as well. We had the
Yeah.
people from different parts of the world that were able to serve and work and do things together. So yeah, it was really a great time for us in our life, and to be exposed to those opportunities was a huge blessing for us.
Yeah. And can you, for those who may not be aware, can you give us a little bit of an update on what is required for an international, worker like yourself to be able to work in the US? Like I understand there's things like sponsorship, the company has to,
Right.
can you talk us through that a little bit too, to just give us a little bit of
Sure.
an
Sure.
understanding of what that structure looks like and why it's so important when we get to the layoff part of the discussion?
Yeah. So there are many different ways in which you can move and work at the U.S. You can do it on your own, with an important amount of money that you invest in a certain company, um, or you could be, in my case, you could be sponsored by a company in which basically they um, let the government know that you're going to come and work for them, and that you are, certain, you have certain capabilities, or certain knowledge or skills that are important for the company to bring from outside, because there's not enough people in the market that could fulfill that work. So you actually have to go to a process in which the company has to demonstrate that you are the right person, and there's no one else in the country that can do that work as you would do it. um, so going through that process, it can be challenging, right? There's a lot of, like, legal aspects of it that you have to go through, a lot of writing documentation, providing your statements, bringing your school certificates, all your professional achievements, all of that, bringing it to the table so they can really build a case and create a petition for you to get a temporary work visa first, and then eventually be able to apply for a permanent work visa that could potentially open the possibility for a
Yeah.
citizenship, if that's what you want to do. Um, but yeah, it is a long process. It can take up to, first part of temporary visas can take up to 7 years, and then, additional 5 years for you to get um, your permanent permit, and then, eventually to be able to apply for citizenship. So yeah, that part of the process can be a little painful, and it's a lot easier, definitely, if you have the
Yeah.
sponsorship of a company that will bring you on board and help you with all those expenses and legal processes that you may or may not understand, which in my case, I didn't at first, but
Yeah.
now I'm kind of an expert.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction is it sounds like a very complex process, right? I mean,
Yep.
Emily, anything you want to comment or add on that so far?
Yeah, I mean, not only complex, but stress on family too. You're in a new
Yeah.
environment. You are you're just trying to get rooted, like you said, and then going through all of that. I can see how you would become an expert very quickly as well, given all of the different things that you have to go through in
Yeah,
order
yeah.
to work
And
here.
what you're touching on, it's very important because the family aspect of things, right? We tried in all this process to be very open and about the conversations that we were having. My wife and I will sit down with their kids and provide updates on everything that's happening. We'll discuss our different steps of the process. No, my kids, one would be more like, oh, all right, that's good, that's fine. The other one would be like, so what's going to happen? What if we don't fulfill the deadline? What if we don't
Okay.
bring the papers? What's going on? And it's like, no, we had to go through all these conversations and also be aware of dates, fees, all these different things that we have to work through, and that definitely brings some extra stress, and anxiety to the family, when you
Yeah.
are a little more open about these conversations, right?
Yeah. Well, I know, Emily and I have been through it also too. I mean, even as U.S. citizens, working in a U.S. company, the level of stress that goes on annually when it comes to times when companies are looking at doing layoffs, I mean, that alone is stressful. But now to have
Yep.
not only your entire family, the roots that you've established, and everything else at risk too, can you talk us through kind of that moment that you were notified of the layoffs and kind of some of the details of how that kind of exponentially like impacted yourself, your family, and
Hmm.
ultimately what it's meant for you, for your short term and your long term future? Kind of what's your vision for where it's going to go? So talk us through that part of it now.
Yeah. So when when this thing started to happen, and you kind of see the writing on the wall, right? You see that, you hear the rumble, you see that things are happening. So we gathered together, we sat down around the table, and I just told my kids, who are of course a little older, much older now, and it's like, all right, this is happening in the company, these are the things that are happening. If this happens to us, then this is what entails, right? We will not be able to go back. We'll have to find alternatives for education here. We'll have to change our lifestyle. We have to bring our stuff. When we left the US a few months before this, um, we were living under the assumption that this was going to be temporary, right? So we left most of our things in the US, and we left unfinished things like bank accounts, cards, things, all these different things that you leave in the process, right? Thinking, oh well, I'll come back and I resume that in a few months, right? So we had to have those conversations, right? So what is it going to mean for this? What's going to mean for my sports practice and for my friends and my school, and how is this going to affect our lifestyle, right? Is this going to change the way that we live, how we eat, where we go, um, and so I think that having that openness really allowed us to be prepared for it, because we actually started having these conversations towards the end of the year, and finally in March when this happened, you know, I just sat down with everybody. I got the email. It's like, I think I'm getting fired today. And so when we sat down through it, it was like, all right, yes, I did get fired. This is what's gonna happen. We already had some conversations. We already had some plans. The kids had been able to provide some suggestions on, hey, maybe we can do this, maybe we can go here, we can move to this part of the country. um, and so going through that process with that openness, I think, was definitely very, very helpful for us, because even though we were all very sad and very stressed, and and worried about next steps of bringing our things and moving, finding a home, re-establishing ourselves back in this country, it having those conversations really prepared us to be in the right mindset. A lot of prayer, a lot of counseling from our friends, keeping close contact with my mentors, both professionally and spiritually. That definitely helped me to keep my mind in the right place and to be able to see possibilities. So so going through that, um, by like trying to being open about things and talking to people in the process is definitely going to help you out. But adding the extra layer of, well, now I know that I won't be able to come back to my previous lifestyle, the thing that I have experienced for the last 7 years, coming back, bringing my kids to a different educational system, to force them into ramp up with the level of Spanish, which of course had diminished over the course of the years because
Mhm.
they were just speaking Spanish to us, and readapting to all of these things definitely brings an extra stress to the process. But I think being open to it definitely helped a lot because we were all ready for it and praying about it and having our minds in the right place.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I love that you talk about how open you were consistently with your kids too, because I think that when the real shock in the system is when something changes abruptly and you just don't feel that preparation for it.
Right.
And as
Right.
a family system, I mean, if you're not all kind of one unit, it can be very, very difficult to move forward and adapt really quickly. Has that experience, like, how has it been as you've kind of gone through that experience now? Like, are things starting to kind of level out? Do you feel like the kids are adapting well?
Yeah, yeah. This we I finished my employment with Microsoft back in April, and then I was out in the market for around 6 months. I was able to find a new position with my current employer back in September, which has been a huge blessing. Um, but of course, navigating through those times of, what are we going to do? Moving different places. We had to move a few times to find the right school because my kids are now in international school schedule, which is different from the local school schedule. And so changing to that will be, you know, um, uh, differences in time frames and things like that. And then of course, I the kids coming back to schools here is like, well, how's the level of Spanish for your kids? Well, of course that's complicated, but um, definitely getting plugged into community helps again. We try to do the same thing that we did when we started in the US. We found a place that felt familiar. We found a church or community to get connected to, and start growing up in connections from there. Um, the sense of community definitely helps a lot, and finding people that you can connect with, not just because you're in the same place physically, but also have an additional affinity, which in this case is your faith, your values, your mindset. uh, it definitely helps to be able to be then supported and understood, and to be open about things and what you need and what you can do. um, those 6 months that we were looking for work were a little tough, but we try to do life as much, as close to normal as we could. Try to reinsert the boys into practicing sports, and get them inserted into like groups at church and community, and we try to go back to the things that we were doing before, trying to serve, try to get close to family, try to do all these things that will give us a certain feeling of normalcy while we were going through the process of finding a new job. And then eventually, when landing a new position, um, that's really when we start settling down, right? Finding an actual home, bringing our things, and I feel that now we are definitely a much better place. There are still things that sometimes we don't know what to do, or we haven't figured out yet. But yeah, I think we're settling fine. Having family and a solid church definitely helps a lot.
Awesome. Juan, as we share this story today, what would you like the people who are listening to this to understand, and whether there may be, there's three or four different versions here, right? So there's, folks like myself and Emily who maybe don't go through this, but what do you want us to understand? If you have somebody who's going through the same thing you are, what do you want them to learn from this story? And then maybe the companies who are making these decisions on layoffs and the people who have impact over people who are being laid off, ultimately, like, what is your story here today? What are you hoping that people will take away from it?
Well, for the three different groups that you describe, right? Um, for the people that see this from a distance and maybe think, well, what is different, right? Well, there are additional variables that make this process a little more complicated for someone that is not in their home, right? That have made a home in a different place, and now they have to be removed from that. because it's like um, it's complete alteration to your lifestyle or the things that you have built. It
Yep.
even it even brings a cultural shock when you go back to your home country and you realize that
Yeah.
your family hasn't been there for a really long time. Your kids, they don't even feel right that they belong there anymore and things like that, right? So just understanding that there are two or three things that may be a little more complicated to the immigrant worker. And so if you can provide any support in the sense of, like, hey, do you need any help? Uh, do you need any help, like getting rid of your things, selling your things, moving things out, moving out of your home, place to stay. All right. This is it's support, additional support that everybody needs. So just understanding that there's an additional level of stress and complication to on top of everything else that is happening to you that you might understand because you've been laid off as well. Then there's the toll to the family, the stress of grabbing everything all your life, moving it to a different place, things like that. For the person that is going through this process, you need to ask for help. There's a sense of pride for us as people that moved our family and our livelihood from one place to another, and we become successful. If we are successful, then there is this level of, I made it here, my life is good, my family's fine, we're happy, we're good. But then all of a sudden, things change. So what do? Ask for help, connect with
I love it.
community, ask for the people that are around you, reach out to the resources that you have available in your company. Ask for help with the support from HR, get all the benefits that you can get that are yours anyway. Just take advantage of them, and make sure that you use those benefits not only for yourself but also for your family. And just be open to ask for help, not in a
I love it.
soft story, who look at me kind of thing, but actually, I'm going through this change of life. Give me a hand if you can.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
it,
amazing.
right? And for the companies that are going through these kinds of processes, there's a lot of effort involved in bringing someone, in this case, in myself, when I moved from my previous employer into Microsoft, there was an important investment in moving me to this company, and paying fees, lawyer time, and processing, and all of these things that are wasted when you remove this person from the equation. So if you're a leader or someone that is making decisions about um, you know the right elements or the moves or the changes in the structure, just take into consideration that those additional investments that the company is making when they're bringing someone, when they're moving someone, when they're even bringing someone from abroad. Because in my case, I was moved a long time ago and then I just jumped, right? But when you're bringing someone from the other side of the world, and then a year later, just look at the situation and think, is it really worth it to just move this person for an extra head? Do we want to really consider the additional benefits, the changes on roles, the changes on tasks? How can we help this person to find a different role within the company so the alteration to their lifestyle is not as significant? Because the immigrant worker will not have access to many of the resources that you may have as a national in your country. Um, so helping to alleviate those processes while at the same time not giving a like an extra benefit, but actually just
Yeah.
being fair with everybody.
Yeah. No, that's it's great insights all the way across the board. And I know we're literally almost out of time. I know we got a time check here that we have to, follow up on. But do you have any specific people that you would like to say thank you to that have supported you along the way? You've said that, you'd say just be aware. Are there folks in your lives, whether it be your immediate family, your wife, your friends, past coworkers, anybody that you wanted to do a quick
Yeah.
thank you for before we wrap
Yeah,
this up?
absolutely. My wife, of course, she's suffered through all my craziness and everything that I have asked her to go to, like move to a different place, do all these things, move houses, change things. She's gone through everything, and she's been gracious and strong, and just faithful with me. So I, of course, my wife is the biggest second rock after my faith. Um, Of course, I have to thank the Lord for everything that He has done to me, to support us as a family. My kids, they have been strong and resilient to everything that has happened. And I want to give a special mention to Scott. I know that he's been years, but he was definitely a great manager. He is a great leader, and he supported me in every way he could through all of the changes and everything that we went through. I know that's at the time that we were impacted. We were both impacted, but he was always gracious and open and honest, and so I really
Amazing.
appreciate everything that he did. And of course, my current employer who has allowed me to get reinserted into the market, and out of the market and into an actual role, in which I can be productive and support my family again. There are so many people and so many just
Yeah,
so many
this is
resources that I keep forgetting. So yeah, I'll,
yep.
I'll probably have to
This
build a very big list. So sorry about
That's
that.
amazing. And with being out of time here, we just want to do a quick thank you to everybody who watched the show today. Please, a
Yep.
quick reminder to repost this, share this out, get this important message across the board, and want to thank everybody for watching. So have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.